What's going on, guys? So I am currently driving north of Houston, Texas on my way to Madisonville, Texas. Madisonville is about an hour and a half north of Houston, and it is the home of Texas Pride Trailers. So Texas Pride is the manufacturer who built me my dump trailer a few months back. I definitely recommend taking a look at that video if you're into trailers as much as I am. Also worked with Demolition Ranch, Matt over there, to help him spec out his trailer, and he ended up also getting one from Texas Pride for his Renovation Ranch project, which if you didn't check out those videos, those are really cool videos that he has over at his channel. He doesn't even really need a shout out from me, just given the fact that he has millions and millions of subscribers on his channel. Anyways, guys, I am on my way up to Madisonville right now because what you guys didn't know is that I had ordered a second trailer shortly after getting my dump trailer. And I chose to go pick up the trailer because a lot of folks had emailed me asking me if I could do a tour of their facility. So I asked the folks at Texas Pride if they would mind if I filmed their facility, filmed the manufacturing process, just so you all would have an idea of what it takes to build your traditional trailer. Now, I know there are all sorts of brands of trailers out there, and I'm not going to say any one brand is better than another brand, but what I can show you, at least in this little series I'm going to do, is how Texas Pride builds their trailers. Simply because I'm very impressed with my dump trailer, and I believe I'll be equally as impressed with my new trailer that I'm getting, and hopefully I'll be able to capture just what goes into it, because these are very manually made products. These aren't something that really roll through a robotic shop where everything is designed and built by robots. So there's a lot of pride that goes into building these things, especially from the hardworking men and women that put their effort into making sure you guys have a good product. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoy this series. I'll be there in a little bit. Hang tight. This is their factory coming up here on the left, and I'm going to go to their sales office because I'm pretty sure that's where I need to go. There he is. What's going on, my friend?
Good to see
you, brother.
Yes, sir.
So you guys probably remember Devin. Devin is the one that delivered the last trailer to me in Corpus Christi, and also brought the trailer up to Bernie, Texas, to deliver it for Demolition Ranch. And Matt,
good seeing you, man.
How you been?
Good, good. Well, this is it. This is where it all happens. You know, it's the sales office. This is kind of our area where we do our invoicing and title work and things. Around here, we've got all of our different sales reps. All really good guys to deal with. Cody, sales manager.
Nice to meet you. Heard a lot of great things about you. Heard you like to arm wrestle Devin. Who wins? Might have to get that one on camera before we're done here.
Right here in the main office, this is Ron.
How's it going? JD, nice to meet you, my friend.
All right, JD.
So this is
the big guy himself.
This is the command center.
Yes, sir. Jim Bray.
JD.
Jim, very nice to finally meet you. Oh, not a whole lot. I appreciate you letting me come out here and film your factory. You know, I've worked with Devin quite a bit, and I'll tell you that you guys turn out a really good product. So I'm interested to see what goes into building your trailers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot goes on behind the scenes that most people aren't aware of.
So the question is do we have full, like, unedited access to the entire facility? Are we going to be able to see everything? Or, you know, and I say this because you go through some factories and everyone's like, hey, quick, let's clean the entire place up before we start. That's not how this is going to be, is it?
This is raw footage here. Yeah, we're going to walk you through the entire process and show you how everything's done.
That's awesome, man. Built in Texas by Texans.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. And you guys have a pretty extensive dealership network, too. I think that you were telling me last time we talked on the phone that you guys service all sorts of different areas of the U.S., and you're even putting up some new places?
Yeah, we have manufacturing going in North Carolina. We have manufacturing going in Utah. We just purchased some manufacturing land up in the Northwest, up in Oregon. Our most recent company store that we opened is in California, and we figure in another probably 2 or 3 years we should be a completely national company, to where to get a Texas Pride trailer, it's maybe should be no more than a couple 100-mile drive at the most.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, I'm really looking forward to this tour. It's definitely something that interests me, and I know a lot of folks on my channel love to see how stuff's built.
Let's have at it.
Again, Jim, very nice to meet you.
Absolutely, man. Anything we can do for you, let us know.
Thank you.
So this part of the factory is basically where we do a lot of the metalworking. In this building here, we've got a whole room with big CNC plasma cutters. In here, we've got all of our big brake press, CNC brake presses, and a big shear. So this is where a lot of our cutting that goes on as far as the plasma and the bending on the brakes.
Okay, and it looks like you guys get quite a bit of steel coming in here as well. Here you were looking at 1.25 inch thick steel plate. This plasma cutter is one heck of a plasma cutter. And they're cutting it all out themselves. So this is used to remove any of the sharp edges from any of the steel that they cut. So here's an example of a product that comes out of that tumbler. You can see how all the sharp edges have been essentially sanded away by going through that tumbler. All right, so Devin directed me over to this little workstation here. Well, that looks really familiar. I am relatively sure that will be an addition to my trailer, maybe.
Okay, so this part of the building is where we work all of our aluminum products, where we build all of our aluminum ramps, anything having to do with aluminum. This is where it's cut and fab. And it has to be one in itself. I mean, you can't have this mixed in with all the steel fabrication that goes on.
And I'm assuming part of that could be because you don't want different types of metals touching each other, because that could potentially cause corrosion, right? It could cause other issues. So keeping your aluminum stock separate from your steel stock is important.
Absolutely. So this is where all of our raw materials come in, as far as all of our parts, pieces, basically all the components. They come in at this area. They're all sorted, put up, inventoried, and then this is where we'll pull from for anything needed for any specific build.
Okay, so pretty much all the components. Like I see you got scissor lifts here. I see you have your leaf spring setups here. So anything that comes in on a truck that goes into the assembly process of a trailer is essentially warehoused here and inside.
Correct.
Let's take a look inside. Okay, so I see you got your fenders up here, your toolboxes right here, and a lot of these toolboxes probably house the hydraulic components in some of your trailers too, right?
Exactly right.
And right here, these look like...
All of the hydraulic cylinders.
These are your hydraulic cylinders.
As we were saying before, that's just a small fraction of what we've got.
Okay, so these are your equalizers.
These are axle hangers, center equalizers down here, more equalizers. This is basically where we test all the cylinders before putting them on the trailer. So we make sure everything functions properly before it ever hits the ground on a unit, a completed unit.
Okay, so every cylinder is tested before it gets installed on a trailer.
That's correct.
That's very cool. And if you're wondering, these are the front cylinders. So like on my dump trailer, this would be the cylinder that's mounted up front to lift it. The scissor jacks are over in the other area, and then we saw some of the other cylinders for the dual ram setup over there as well. That's very cool. And they really do test it.
You see, we've even got some of our skid-mounted gasoline power units.
Okay.
You can actually put a Honda gasoline, either a GX390 or GX690 on your dump trailer or roll-off system.
So right here are part of their suspension components. You can see all the Dexter stuff as well as the front landing gear. This is one of their cutting stations. Got a lot of steel being cut right now. I know it's a little loud, but once this finishes cutting, this will automatically move forward and it will automatically bring in the next length needed before it starts cutting. So you may wonder how Texas Pride feels about nature. Well, they have a spot specifically set up for their geese. You can see they're all grazing out here in the field, or feeding, whatever you might call them. It's a lot of goosenecks you got going on over here.
Okay, so now that we've left the metal processing area, once everything's picked up here, brought to this area to where this is basically where everything's prefabbed. All of our small parts and pieces, doors, the bumper pulls on the trailers, the goosenecks, basically all those type of components are going to go to this area here.
Okay. see them welding. Over here you got some of your spare tire carriers, other components, hinges. And these are pieces that are all ready to go over to that building, which we'll go to next, which is the fabrication, where everything gets fabricated and assembled. All right, Devin, so we're obviously not in the small trailer section anymore. What do we got going on over here?
This is a part of the facility where we build our larger car haulers. Things such as a 5-car, 6-car, all the way up to a 7-car hauler.
How much does one of these generally weigh, do you know?
Oh, depending on the models, I mean, a 5-car is around 10,000 pounds, moving all the way up to a 7-car that's typically around 17,000 pounds.
Wow, so yeah, these are definitely something you want to pull behind a semi-tractor. Okay, so this is one of their larger 6-car haulers. Check out the suspension setup on this one. So this one's got full air suspension. See the enormous axle setup on this unit. So if you guys want to look at axles, they have a ton of axles here. Just tons of them bundled up way down there. You can see all the different axles down here. But an axle that caught my eye are these right here. These are really cool. So these have disc brakes on them. These are some beefy axles. So what are these, Devin? Are these 12K axles?
This is a 12,000 pound rated electric over hydraulic disc axle.
Okay, and I see these are oil bath.
Correct.
Do you get a lot of folks asking for disc brakes on their trailers?
You do. I mean, there's really nothing but benefits for a disc axle. More stopping power, easier to change the brakes out when it comes time. You're not dealing with magnets and things like that you typically deal with in a drum setup.
All right, guys, so as you probably know by now, they sell a ton of trailers because they have a lot of axles here. Devin, I got a question for you. Let's say that you all of a sudden stopped getting axle shipments today. How long would this inventory, everything that we've seen, because again, there's got to be thousands of axles here, how long do you think this inventory would last before you're out?
Well, really, we approximately go through about 100 axles per day. So as this may look like a lot of axles, if something were to ever happen on supply, this would only end up lasting us maybe a month and a half to 2 months tops.
Wow, and that is crazy. And you have all sorts of different type. I see oil bath, I see grease, I see disc brakes. There's some disc brakes one over here. I see just a whole variety of types of axles that you have back here. It is crazy to think that you go through this many axles.
Yes, sir.
That's a lot of product.
Okay, so now that we left the prefab building, this is actually where we produce everything. This is the production lines, the trailer bays. For the most part, these guys work in 2-man teams, except at the far end of this building, we actually do have one assembly line that we run certain models on, but this would be where the majority of the production facility would be based.
And you know what? Everyone wondered if this was going to be one of those tours where everything was set up, and you can tell this is a fully functioning factory right now. There's stuff going on everywhere around us.
Absolutely.
So you get a chance here to see pretty much all the trailers in various stages of assembly. You see the frames over here. A lot of people say that U.S. manufacturing's gone, but this is a really good example of how it's still alive and well, at least in certain parts of the country. This is part of their assembly line where the dump trailers come in. You can see the various stages of completion. And when it rolls out of here, is it ready for paint? Is that where it goes after here?
Ready for paint. This is actually the only station that's not set up in 2-man bays. But yeah, once you got here where you do your main frame, they come through here for a rolling test. And then from here, they start topping it out. Once it leaves out of here, it's ready for paint.
All right, so we just left assembly, and now the trailers in their raw steel form come over here to sandblasting?
Correct. Yeah, this would be the next step. Everything's ran through here, sandblasted, prepped real well, and then we'll move on over into the paint rooms.
Let's take a look at what they do in here. And they open this up for us real quickly, but they usually work in a closed environment because it's pretty dusty in here. But you get to kind of see what they do. And if you look at this material on the ground, very fine powder, and they're essentially getting all of the rust, anything that is built up on the frame or the metal while it's in the production process. All right, guys, so we have now moved from the sandblasting area over to the paint prep area, I guess you might call it, and I got Devin, of course, and I also got Robert. So Devin, I know you want to talk a little bit about this paint booth because it's pretty special, right?
Yeah, it's a real nice state-of-the-art paint booth that we have here. It's actually about 16,000 square foot. One of the largest paint facilities in the state of Texas, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
And, really these guys do an awesome job in this area. I mean, once he comes out of blasting, they'll bring it in here and do the final prep work on it, basically run around and just fine-tuning anything that the sandblaster may have missed. And then once that final prep is done, they'll shift it off into this other bay here right ahead. The trailer was actually suspended from the roof. You'll see the overhead monorail systems once we get in there. And to be fully primed and then sprayed with 2 top coats of a high-grade acrylic enamel. So a real nice paint facility they've got here for sure.
So Robert, when we talk about the finish on a trailer and how it's supposed to last and how it's supposed to be able to put up with the abuse that these things go through, what do you do to ensure that these trailers are really done well, that they have a great finish on them for a customer?
Okay, so I'll be honest with you, most people may or may not know this, but 90% of painting is actually in the prep. It's all about the prep. So, I mean, that's where you spend the vast majority of your time. In fact, we spend more time prepping than we actually do priming or painting, so to speak. To start with, you always want to look over your whole trailer. Cleanliness is very important. Anything from actual dirt that's on the material itself or to things that other people do not know, but sometimes you'll have grease and oil build up on some of your metals. All of that gets wiped down with paint thinner to get all that grease and oil and dirt debris separated from the steel because that could be a big issue with adhering. If you don't have good clean material, you're not going to have good adhesion. With poor adhesion, you're not going to have that lifespan that you should get out of a proper paint job here in the facility. So like I said, everything from the little stuff, the little beads, that's not hurting anything structurally, but it's appealing to the eye. So we want to make sure we catch all of those highlighted points, knock all of the beads off, check all our welds. We hit all the diamond plate materials such as the fenders and locations where this is sandblasting. You have what's called a white metal finish, so to speak. And like you spoke on, sometimes there's smaller areas that get missed, but here in the shop we actually take a wire wheel to that and grind the entire area of diamond plate, whether it be on the fenders, gussets, anything like that. You want to hit those areas. After we have prepped the entire trailer, we will make sure to blow it off completely, give it a good wipe down with a thinner rag that will clean all of the grease and debris off. And then lastly, we will take a caulking gun and caulk the seams down the side of the trailer, and then you want to go back to your doors as well where you still have some of those seams that you would see. So we'll caulk the trailers along the doors, on the insides and outside. Whenever you have rainwater coming down, you don't see that rust that comes from the rainwater. And it's not actual rust, it's just you have maybe an 1/8-inch area of material that's in between that, that's not physically possible. So we cap it off on both sides to prevent any rust materials.
Water sitting in there. Yep. So this trailer just pulled in, and this one is going to go through all these fine employees down this line that will make sure that this thing is perfect before it hits the paint booth.
Very much so. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
All right, guys. So I know a very controversial topic when it comes to trailers is paint versus powder coat. And whenever you are considering a trailer, oftentimes people are going to brag about either painting their trailer or powder coating their trailer. My experience with powder coat has not been the greatest, only because when I was at another factory touring what they built, which is not trailers, I noticed that if there was any rust, any imperfection, powder coat just disguised it. It kind of creates kind of a bubble over it, and you don't find out until that powder just pops open and all of a sudden you have rust forming underneath it. Whereas paint, just like cars, you can get every spot. You can get everything covered with paint, and I've always been aware that paint is easier to repair. But what's your take on it, being the people who actually do it on these trailers?
That's actually very correct. And like I said, again, that's something that most people would not know or understand. But if you say you have this exact same trailer and it's powder coated, you damage an area as simple as 1 inch, you have to re-powder coat the entire trailer in order to, there's no such thing as spot fixing whenever you reach the powder coating application. Now, thankfully for us, if trailers to get damaged is paint, and it can be easily corrected, whether it is needing to be completely reshot or you can just touch up a single panel in an area. So a lot of issues that people tend to have or overspray, we don't have those issues because we will mask off the same as if this were an automotive facility actually shooting cars, because this is that type of facility. If you had to ask yourself which is the better route to go, in my personal opinion, spraying paint is better than powder coating.
Well, and the other side of it too is if you look at auto manufacturers, name one auto manufacturer that powder coats their cars.
Right? You gotta, like you said, even some of the most top of the line high-end vehicles, supercars, they're painted. It's not powder coated. It's, like I said, in my personal opinion, painting is definitely the better way to go.
And I've personally grown to prefer paint over powder coat. Again, I have experience with some other manufactured products that were powder coated. Wasn't a big fan, especially once you started seeing rust.
Okay, so one of the things that we do is we actually will take the trailers and we have an overhead crane set up in each one of the paint booths. That allows us to suspend the trailer in the air to be able to maximize our visibility as far as areas that need to be painted and some of those trickier areas that tend to cause a shadow whenever you have the dump bed in play. One thing we do, like I said, to accommodate that is we suspend the trailer in the air and we'll actually have stands that we place underneath it. So getting us that extra height to be able to get underneath the trailers, make sure we're doing a good job as far as coverage. We will pull all of the wheels off, that way we can get the main frame, the subframe behind there, even the small spots of inside of the hanger kits, all the little details. And after it's primed, we go back over it. If anything was missed, we'll reprime the whole trailer again to get that second coat on there. Before doing so, like I said, everything has to be inspected. If there's anything with prep that was an issue, can easily be corrected right here in the facility. So all prep, prime issues are taken care of before starting the painting procedure.
Let's duck down under here real quick, because that's the part that's kind of important. A lot of people don't realize is missed in a lot of trailers.
Very much so.
Everything is painted under here. Everything. I know it's really dark because it's black under there, but everything on this trailer is painted, and that's important. Now,
axles, the U-bolts, everything, just like you said.
The paint is more cosmetic. The primer is what protects the metal.
Very correct.
Right, so you can scratch paint with, you can scratch anything that's painted with keys or with a knife or with something sharp. It's the primer that's underneath the paint that is generally offering the most protection, right?
Very much so. Very much so.
Because that's something that I've always wondered. You see a trailer, and it really doesn't matter what brand it is, but after a while, some of them look really bad, some look really rusty, and typically what I've seen is the ones that look really rusty are the ones that were powder coated over raw steel, and the powder coating's coming off, or it was painted, but with no primer. And even when I've seen some trailers, I've actually seen a Texas Pride trailer, and it kind of looked like it was in rough condition. But then when I noticed it, there wasn't really any rust. It was just primer that you would see, that they've worked their straps over it, or the tractor, or some piece of equipment that's ground away at the paint, but the primer's still there. So that's really interesting.
And so basically in that aspect, you'll get into mill thickness, whereas paint tends to have a different type of texture than primer does. So the key things about primer is that has your rust preventer, and all the different additives that make that steel increase its actual lifespan. And again, like you said, the top coat or paint, so to speak, is only just cosmetic for the eye.
Okay, something they just informed me of, which is really cool, is that of all their paint booths, which they have 6 of them, one is always down. And the reason why is they strip it completely down to clean it up, refurbish the whole thing, just to make sure there's no bad particles or anything that could get into the paint to mess it up. And that is really cool. So this is the paint booth that they currently have down for maintenance. The rest of them are all active, but there's always at least one paint booth that is completely being redone at all times. That's really cool. Okay, Devin, so we are standing in front of something that not a lot of trailer manufacturers have, and that is a full commercial scale. That is really cool. Yes. So you were telling me you guys weigh all your trailers.
Right.
Which is really cool. So the sticker that you put on it and the ratings you put on it are actually based on the actual weight of the trailer, right?
Correct. We kind of serves a few purposes. One, to weigh the trailers out. 2, on our big loads and things that we send out to other dealers and our other locations. We can roll through here and make sure we're not grossly overloaded in any way.
Yep, and you can see right here that this dump trailer, which is unhooked from the Goose Ball right now, is 5,300 pounds, and that fluctuates because the wind's blowing, so the wind is of course going to change how that weight is, and that's important to know. So you see it going down to 5,220 pounds all the way up to 5,300 pounds. So what you have to keep in mind, guys, is when I talk to you about how wind impacts your load when you're driving, that's almost 100 pounds, and that's weight that's being added to different areas of the trailer because wind's contacting it. Okay, one thing I noticed sitting here is this generator. And it's a Honda generator. So there are a lot of cheap brands of generators that are out there that you could put on your trailers, but you guys use high quality components. I mean, a Honda GX is not the cheapest generator on the market.
No, sir. Yeah, we really strive to use some of the best products we can on these trailers. You know, that's actually our smaller unit, the GX 390, and then we also do an upgraded 24 horsepower GX 690 as well.
That's good. That's good. Again, you just sometimes don't expect to see brands like Honda on trailers, right? A lot of people think it's all about price, but oftentimes if it was all about price, you could have gone to something half that price.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. So what are we moving into now?
So moving into our finishing bays. Like I say, as soon as it comes out of paint, this is basically where we'll bring it in, start running the wire.
Let's take a look at one of your wiring harnesses. This is what I noticed on my dump trailer too, that the entire wiring harness, it wasn't just a bunch of bare wires, it was all encased in a nice sealed encasement.
All sealed, and then all your connections being butt connected and heat shrunk as well. So you're not dealing with Scotch locks and that kind of thing.
But I also wanted to take a look at how everything is painted. That's one thing that's really cool to notice. So I'm going to kind of get the camera under here so you can see. But one thing you'll notice on this trailer that I've noticed that is not the case on other manufacturers, at least not some of them, is that they don't paint everything. Everything is kind of like visually appealing from the outside, but the minute you look inside of like one of your C channels, it's rusty. But if you notice on the Texas Pride trailer, everything gets painted. I mean, everything. It is just a very, very thorough paint job. All right, Devin, so you've taken me to probably what's arguably the most important station here at Texas Pride. Where are we at right now?
This would be the final stage of our trim out area to where we do a full quality control inspection. It's a 97-point quality control inspection to where basically we're going through axles, brakes, lights, every aspect of the trailer to just ensure that you have no issues with it at the final purchase.
Give me an idea real quick of things you might look for just to check to make sure they're working properly or functioning well, or we're done right.
One of the main things that we do is we'll put everything on an actual tester. We'll plug the trailer in, we'll surge power back to the brakes to make sure the brakes are working properly. We'll run through all the light functions of it. And then from there, we'll run the hydraulics through a full scale deal there. You know, once the trailer's lifted up, we do go through all the suspension components, axles and hubs. I mean, just anything you can imagine. Every aspect of this trailer has gone through before it leaves QC.
Man, it seems like the wind keeps picking up on us. Okay, so I guess explain what is going on with this sea of both roll-off containers, trailers, goosenecks, car haulers, dumps. I mean, we got just about everything back here. So what happens right here? What is going on?
So in this area, basically, once the trailers roll out of quality control and they're all checked through and everything, they'll move to this location here. And this is where we prep everything for our stacking and shipping. You know, from here, you know, we'll stack them, send them out, say, to our dealer locations or our factory outlets. And, you know, anything that's being shipped out in stacks more or less is prepped and stacked here for shipment.
Okay. So you are probably one of the primary employers here in Madisonville, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's good. You guys are helping a community. You guys are employing a lot of folks. This is all U.S. manufactured stuff. This is stuff built here in the States, not imported. And you have a really, really great product. I'm really impressed with it. Now, you know, I can't speak to other brands. I can't speak to what they do, and I'm not going to knock on any of them because, you know, any product that's manufactured here in the States, I prefer, right? It's a good thing, and this is just helping our economy. But I think more importantly than anything is just to know what goes into making one of these. You guys didn't try to hide any part of this tour from me, and it's a fully functioning factory, and I think most people are going to understand that if they have earphones plugged in through most of this tour. And it is definitely something that they are very proud of, and I can understand why they call themselves Texas Pride. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this tour of the Texas Pride factory here in Madisonville, Texas. It's definitely an eye-opening experience to see all the time, effort, and work it takes to put these things together and to build them. Oftentimes we go to a place that sells stuff like this and we buy it not really understanding what type of man hours it takes to put something together and all the hard work and effort. I was very impressed, honestly. And I know there's all sorts of great trailer manufacturers out there, so I'm not going to knock on any of them because, you know, if they build build them right, if they're doing the right thing, then that's a good thing. I'm just really impressed with what Texas Pride has done. They're relatively close to me, being in Corpus Christi, Texas, and them being in Madisonville. And the process that they go through definitely tries to address any types of concerns before you buy a trailer. I can honestly tell you that what I saw here today is a process that shows that they do take pride in the manufacturing of their product, and that is something that is worth mentioning. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for 2 other videos that we're going to be doing, including the reveal of the new trailer that I just got. So I am really excited to show you all, and I haven't even seen it in person yet. I ordered it, I spec'd it out, but I still hadn't seen it. So it's going to be a big surprise for me too. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.